can help you to know where you need to adapt your presentation. You may need to differentiate for some of your learners to make your material more or less challenging. Today, I want to check in with you. How would you feel if I asked you to create a Jamboard right now that would give some effective practice to your class? So I will share a link in the chat in a moment and ask you to provide your information, but I also wanted to mention that if you have any problems accessing the link in the chat, that you can send a direct message to Rudy and she'll try to help you out. So let me model what I'm going to ask you to do. I'm going to ask you to follow the link in a moment, to click on a sticky note, and then to just type your name or just your first initial and click Save. It's going to give you another sticky note, but you only need one, so you can click Cancel. Then you can drag or drop your sticky to the number that shows how comfortable you would feel if you needed to create a Jamboard for your class right now. So I'm popping the link into the chat. Please go ahead and click on it. I'll give you just a few more minutes, or one more minute maybe. All right, that's perfect. I can see that we have a wide variety of experience and confidence with creating a Jamboard. So thank you for sharing that with me. I've always been interested in the intersection of English language teaching and technology, but the move to virtual learning made me reflect about the number and the kind of tools that would be effective to use with my beginning and literacy level learners. They were already feeling overwhelmed by Zoom, and I didn't want to introduce a lot of new tools that would just make them more nervous. Jamboard was one tool that I grew to rely upon for all of the reasons that you can see here. And this is an example of a Jamboard mind map. As a pre-writing exercise, you could give your class a question and they could respond as individuals, partners, small groups, or the whole class by responding to that question or that prompt in any of the little bubbles that you see here. Afterward, they can come back and present what they've thought of to the class. My teaching context is working with beginning level learners, and some of them are emergent readers. Research for this context on effective teaching practice includes from Cunningham, Flores, and Terrell that a passage has an order. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. We read from left to right and from top to bottom. From Curtis and Krudeniner, that reading skills instructions includes alphabetics, vocabulary, fluency, and comprehension. And from Vinogradov that a mixture of top-down and bottom-up activities for reading is essential and effective for adult English language learners. And from Bow Valley College, that classrooms fostering a supportive community will develop respect, empathy, and empowerment and lead to increased learner persistence, which is something we all want. This is also an example of a Jamboard mind map that you could use for a simple shared research project. For example, I want to ask my class, where can you buy the cheapest item? And they are going to brainstorm different stores and then use those stores and that information to go find data that we will put together, analyze, and present. Policy based on research informs our effective classroom teaching practice. The English language proficiency standards and the college and career readiness standards ensure learners have the skills that they need to meet their education and employment goals, including academic language and higher critical thinking skills. This is seen at local levels in program objectives and course curriculum. For example, in using a course book that has been correlated or aligned to meet the standards. I've picked out 3 standards for today that can be supported by using Jamboards. From Standard 1, Level 1, learners can practice creating a summary by identifying a few key words and phrases in oral communications and simple spoken and written passages. From Standard 2, Level 1, learners can present simple information and respond to yes or no and information questions. And from Standard 5, Level 1, learners can label information, gather it, and carry out short shared research projects. Let's walk through creating a Jamboard. This activity was used during a transportation unit. To support the objective, I can ask and answer questions about transportation used to get to school, work, or shopping. We had already practiced matching the picture with the word that represented the mode of transportation: car, bike, bus, train, metro. In this research project aligned to ELP Standard 5, we are gathering information through a class survey, tallying and analyzing the results in a bar graph, and presenting and discussing the information.
Let's create a new Jamboard. First, I'll go to Google Drive. I'll go to the corner and select New, More, and Google Jamboard. So here's my Jamboard. It's a virtual whiteboard, and I can add whatever I want to it. Let's give it a title. We'll call it Transportation Survey. Then I'm going to select Enter or Return on my keyboard, or the blue box that says OK on the screen. You can see our tools on the left. We have a pen, an eraser, the select or cursor, add sticky note, add image, add shape, add text, or use the laser pointer. We're going to start by adding a sticky note. I want to ask my class, how do you get to school? I can hit Enter or Return on my keyboard, or I can click the blue Save box. Now it's giving me the next sticky note, but I don't need another, so I can just select Cancel. I can take my sticky note and drag and drop it into the corner. I can use the handle to turn it, and I can drag on the corner to make it larger or smaller. I can use the three dots to edit, duplicate, or delete the sticky note. Now we have the question, and I need to add some images for our answer. I'll go to Add Image, Google Image Search, and I'll search for a car. I'll select a car, select Insert, and drag and drop the car down to the corner. I will select Add Image, and this time Walk. I will select an image of people walking to school, Insert, and drag and drop the picture down to the bottom. I will go to Image. This time we need Bus. I will select a bus, Insert, drag to the bottom. I will add an image. I think they also might ride a bike. Select a bike, Insert, drag it to the bottom. Now I will add a sticky note that says Other, in case there is someone in the class who comes to school a different way. Then I'll select Cancel. Take the Other and move it down to the bottom and make it a little bit larger. Okay, now I want to model this by making a sticky note that represents the way I get to school. So I'll select Sticky Note. I'll make mine blue and type my name, Darlene, and save. Select Cancel. I'm going to move mine over to the column that has the car because I drive to school. Now I've created a Jamboard activity to use in our transportation unit in under 5 minutes.
Okay, you may be wondering, well, when and how do I use this in my class? I've used Jamboards in my class from check-in, from the very moment they walk into the classroom, all the way to the end where I may use a Jamboard for formative assessment. Here you can see just a few of the ways that I've used Jamboards with my learners. But you know your program objectives and your learners best, so adapt these ideas to be useful to the learners in your classroom. This is just for inspiration. Now let's go look at more than a dozen more ideas or ways to use this with your class. Here's an example from a reading activity. This is a TED Ed talk from Brian Stevenson of the Equal Justice Initiative. From Standard 1, Level 1, learners are asked to identify a few key words and phrases in oral communications and simple spoken and written texts. In a unit where learners are discussing their own personal identity and narrative, they watch a very short clip, just a few seconds, of Brian Stevenson talking about his childhood and his relationship with his grandmother and how that shaped his life. Then we discuss any blocking vocabulary, we read the sticky notes, and we put the notes into order. We are underscoring basic reading skills, that we read from top to bottom and from left to right, that a passage has a beginning, middle, and end. For a higher level learner, you could create more sticky notes that they have to put into order. For an emergent reader, you might just have 3 and simplify the language. In this speaking activity, We are working on a home and household repair unit. Learners put a conversation into order and practice it as a whole class, small groups, and then with partners. You can see that it's color-coded into yellow and blue for the two speakers. For higher level learners, you may not color code it. They may have to sort and order that without the color coding. But for an emergent reader, you may not only color code the speakers, but you may number some of these boxes or decrease the number of boxes so that it's easier for them to put it into order. In this pronunciation activity, learners are sorting and ordering words by their vowel sound. Does the word sound like it contains the vowel sound egg, or tree? For emergent readers, I might not use the print words here. I might just choose clip art to show what these words are, and they can sort and order that by moving the stickies where they belong in which column. There is a limit of 20 frames per Jamboard, but it's very simple to make a copy of the entire Jamboard. So you could have 40, 60, 80, or 100 frames. That way everyone can work on their own page, their own Jamboard for individual practice after you've modeled it. The way you duplicate is by going up here to your frame bar, clicking on the three dots, and then just click duplicate. If you need to copy the entire Jamboard, you can go to your Jamboard front page to do almost the exact same thing. For this writing activity, learners are giving advice by email. After we review the parts of the email and read the email, they are going to label the parts. Then learners create their own email with advice. So for an emergent reader, they can share their screen with me. I can request remote control, and I can help them using this as our sentence starter kind of framework. In this vocabulary activity, we can use this for controlled practice or formative assessment like a quiz for individuals, partners, small groups, or the whole class. So I would start by just giving them a few words each day or lesson, and by the end of the week or the end of the unit, they're seeing all of these words and definitions, and they can move them around to wherever they need to go. You can also ask your learners to create the words for each picture that they see here as an added level of challenge. In this grammar activity, we are reinforcing our question of the day: what is he doing, or what is she doing? So you can see here we have three different pieces that we're sorting and ordering: orange, green, and blue. So the question, what is she doing? The answer, she is studying in the living room. And then we're going to try to notice what the grammar is, what the pattern is that we're trying to duplicate. For an emergent reader, you could make this much shorter by grouping some of the words together in blocks. That way they only have to put 2 or 3 pieces into order, but they're still noticing the grammar structure. This is one of my introductory slides I use for each class. This was from a class for Afghan women last fall. We are doing a check-in, which can be anonymous, or they can put their initial or their full name. And it's a way to develop an empathetic and respectful classroom community. Other check-ins could be, you could do a fist to 5, where you have a clip art of a fist or a 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the class can put their sticky notes under where they feel like they are at this moment of the class or after an activity, perhaps. You could also use a weather clip art where you have a sunny sky, partly cloudy, foggy, rainy, tornado, and learners can put their stickies under the column that responds to how they are feeling. I've also asked the class to create stickies about their high point or low point of the day, um, just to get the conversation started. It's amazing to see then when learners go into small groups, they will just naturally start asking each other, hey, I saw that your sticky was on sad. Are you okay? What's wrong? Did you have a good day? And it's really great to see them building those classroom relationships. Uh, some of the learners in my class were brand new to using a trackpad and a keyboard, as well as brand new to English. So we used a Jamboard like this to work on phonemic awareness. And at the same time, we're working on single and double clicking. We're working on letter recognition, letter sound production, and keyboarding. I would again work on a few letters each day so that it's not too overwhelming. And by the end of the week or the end of a group of lessons, we have more or all of the letters uncovered that they're working with. In the same way, learners can use this word wall template to create words and write them into their notebooks. For emergent readers, I would probably provide a couple of the letters and have them just fill in the vowel sound that they think is correct, and that they can then put this into their notebook. For a higher level learner, I'm going to challenge them by making the word longer, perhaps providing blends or other challenges for them.
Darlene, let me just, by agreement at the beginning, interject now to say we're at 12:20 so that you can take that into account as you proceed.
Thank you very much. Okay, and this is numeracy practice that we would do in the same way. We would sort and order numbers by tens, and we also use this for some simple math problems. We would identify cardinal and ordinal numbers by having blue stickies that might have the word printed or a ordinal number. And we would also do things like, what time is it? It's 10 o'clock. What time will it be in 2 hours? 12 o'clock. What time was it 2 hours ago? So reinforcing those numeracy pieces. And we would do the same for days and dates. I recommend starting with all words and then moving to all numbers, and then moving to a mixture of words and numbers. For an emergent reader, you might just have one or two things that they're trying to sort, whereas for a higher level learner, you're going to increase their number of stickies. We would do the same with days of the week. Every day we talk about what day is today, and then we would continue to add those days to our Jamboard and sort and order the days. For an emergent reader, I would put 2 or 3 days in one block so that they are only putting a couple blocks in order, just to provide an appropriate differentiation for them. Here's an example of a classroom activity we always used to do in person, and it's easy to adapt to a virtual presentation. One of the things that's really helpful with Jamboard is that emergent readers often become overwhelmed by the amount of text that they're seeing. On a Jamboard, there's plenty of white space. This helps their eyes to rest and to focus on the text that's important. So I make sure not to overload my Jamboards with too much text. Four corners is done in the same way. We would study adverbs of frequency and then ask and answer questions with a partner before reporting back to the class on things like, do you drink coffee in the morning? Do you eat dessert? Do you go to work? And then learners can respond back to the class with what they've heard from their partners. And here's an example of a unit survey that I would do to create a bar graph. So I think it's really important in an adult English class to provide learner agency and choice in any way that I can. So in this case, we're looking at what unit we want to study next. Do we want to work on work, money, health, what type of unit are we interested in? The important thing to remember is all of these Jamboard pieces are individual and can be moved. Sometimes students will accidentally move them when they are trying to move around their sticky notes. So it's important to set up your Jamboard, take a screenshot, and set that screenshot as your background. Now learners can add all of their sticky notes, but they won't accidentally move the mind map or the prompt or any of your graphics that you've included. All right, that's a lot of samples. Let's go back to our collaboration. Let's think about what we've seen and heard and consider how to integrate this into a lesson plan. Our class is studying consumerism. Their objective is to request items at a restaurant, and they can ask and answer choice questions using OR. So coffee or tea, large or small, French fries or chips. So I would like for you to make a sticky note with an idea for an activity. We have in this pretend class already elicited their favorite restaurants. We watched a video of somebody placing an order at a restaurant. We've put a simple conversation into order and noticed its grammar. So now we want to find a way to get our class to keep practicing, to keep activating this vocabulary and this grammar structure. So I want to show you first, before I put you into breakout rooms, how I want you to respond. I will, in a moment, put a link into the chat for this Jamboard. But I'm going to ask you to, with your group, consider that you have different teaching contexts, but that you all have ideas to bring to the table. So I want you to just make a lot of stickies here with all your ideas about how can I get the learners to continue practicing. Maybe it's a bar graph, maybe it's a mind map. Think of anything you might do in your classroom to get your learners to keep the practice going. So I've got the link in the chat. Please click on the link before I put you into breakout rooms. And we're just going to go to breakout rooms for about 2 minutes. Chat with your people in your breakout room. And we'll see you back in 2 minutes. Cindy, can you make it into a breakout room? There we go.
Darlene, I apologize for not recording that right from the beginning.
Oh, no problem. That's fine. Don't worry.
It's going well.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to pull them back. All right, welcome back, everybody. I love the ideas that we've seen so far, and I hope it's started you thinking about how you could use Jamboard in your lesson plan. So we have here, you could have a waitress asking, would you like blank or blank? And maybe you create a list of things they can choose from. Here we have the customer, I would like blank. And that's a great frame for them to start with. Wonderful. And this person has list parts of the meal or food and put them in order, breakfast, lunch, or dinner items. So excellent ideas, really nicely done. We're going to go back to some very quick tips. And these will be things that I think were helpful got started. Of course, to model first, especially with emergent readers, you can use remote control so that they can practice using it on your screen first. You can post the hyperlink in the chat as I did today, and make sure to set your background. To give remote control of your screen to a learner on Zoom, if you are the host, you will see a button that says remote control, and you can click their name so that they can have control. And that way they can use the Jamboard on your screen. So it's an I do, we do, you do process. And again, it's important when you create your Jamboard to share it with your class. But when you create a Jamboard, it is private. It's very important to change that permission from viewer to editor. So it just takes 1 second. You click on share in the top corner and then change viewer to editor. And that way everyone can work on it together. I have some references to share with you, but also just wanted to remind you that you can look on Instagram at #Jamboards for many more ideas. And 5 YouTubers who are experts in this area are John Sowash, Russell Stannard, Sam Carey, Kevin Stratford, and Technology for Teachers and Students. So whether you're just getting started or you are an expert, I would highly recommend those 5. We've come to the end of the presentation. I'd love to hear from you if you have any questions. This QR code will give you the link to the Jamboard samples we looked at today. Please make sure to make a copy before you start using them with your class. Otherwise, we will all be on the same Jamboard at the same time. So are there any questions? Oh, and I did want to give a huge shout out to Paul, Rudy, Tiffany, and the whole MCAEL team for setting up the conference. It's been a pleasure to work with them, and I appreciate all of the work that they do for learners, instructors, and program staff. Any questions I can answer for you today?
Hi, Darlene. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I am curious. We don't standardize on Gmail. Now, what happens if you have a class where you have students that don't use Google, like a Gmail, and you wanted to have them in breakout groups?
So breakout rooms are on Zoom, and you don't need to have Gmail for that. And they don't need any kind of account at all to use Jamboard. They can use it on their phone, tablet, or computer.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, we don't use Zoom. We use Google Meets, but yeah, so I was just wondering, okay, so if they had any other email other than Gmail, they can use the Jamboards if they needed to create. Okay.
Yeah, they don't need any kind of account. That's a great question.
Oh, that's great. Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
There's another question in the chat from Rebecca Kuzik at CASA. I'll just read it. Many of our students use their phones during the class. Does anyone have any experience using Jamboard when students are on their phone?
Yes, I love using Jamboard with my class who is on a phone. I just make sure that I limit the number of boxes I have to about 12. I find that on my phone, it's easy to manipulate and see 12. But again, I try not to put whole paragraphs of text on there. I just usually have something that's much shorter. It works great on a phone.
And here's another question from Stacy at CASA. I find my students have difficulty in using Annotate or chat on Zoom. Any suggestions on how to make this more understandable for use?
What I did is I created a Screencastify video. It was very short and easy to do. I'm definitely not an expert, but I showed them on my own, in this video, how to get to chat and how to use a link. Sometimes it's easier to just use remote control and let them use Jamboard on your screen until they build up the confidence, and then they will be asking you, teacher, I have a link, or I can use Jamboard, and they are very excited to do it on their own.
We probably have time for another question if anybody has a question. If not, then I'd like to thank Darlene very much for her presentation. You will note in the chat that I have dropped a link there for a survey. So we really appreciate if you take a couple of minutes and tell us what you thought about the workshop. And next, we have a session starting at 12:50. I will put the links in the chat momentarily for that as well.
Thanks, everyone.
So the upcoming sessions you will find in your program, or you can go back to the Coalition Room. I've put the Coalition Room location, link in the chat. And I will work to put the other rooms in the chat as well, but you can also get to the next sessions through your program. So just a moment. If you are going to attend a session here in the people room, I'm actually going to close it now, and you will need to re-enter it. So thank you very much, everybody, for attending.
Thank you. Rudy, a quick question. You will be sending the slides or make the slides available, right? Oh,
yes,
sorry.
There will be a follow-up email to the whole conference early next week that will include all of the conference information.
Okay,
so
thank you.
Great.
Darlene,
thank you very much, everybody.
Question.
I'm going to close the room now.
Rudy, Vince had a quick question.
Can you
I'm sorry, please.
I'm sorry. Can you incorporate like the polling feature into this Jamboard?
No, the polling feature is a part of Zoom, not a part of Jamboard.
Oh, gosh. All right. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right.
Great.
Like I have
Great. Thank you, everybody.
I do have a question about when you're saying get into the next session. I just go back to the email from to get in to the Zoom.
You know, the easiest thing to do would be to click the link that I sent to the Coalition Room. You can do that, and it will show the next sessions coming up. And then you can go to you can also do it straight from your electronic program.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sure. Are there any other questions before I close? Okay. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
All right. See you at the next session. Bye-bye.